Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf.
Well.
Yeah.
If anyone thought that 2021, we were going to flip this calendar and get back to normal, this is normal. I just read, somebody else just quoted this. The new normal is abnormal, or abnormal is normal. So whichever way we want to look at that. But hey, apologize for everyone. We were about a minute late here. We had a little technology glitch, which throws us one more thing to throw us into the world of uncertainty, or the world of VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So welcome, Joyce, back for another week of Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization.
Thanks. It's great to be your co-host.
Yeah.
I love it.
And welcome, everybody, to Googlization Nation. Wow, we were on last week, kicking off the year. We had a great topic. But while we were in our conversation, there was a few things going on in Washington. Here we are again. A few
more things going on in Washington.
And then next week at this time, we're going to have, hopefully, it'll be normal and calm and peace will be returned. But next week, because we are live, we never know what happens. And next week, this time, we should have a new president, but we will never take much for granted these days, or we shouldn't take much for granted. And you know what they say about making assumptions, right?
I think it's really important to say one thing, Ira, and that is if you can't watch our show live, please make sure to listen to the podcast. Available on many different podcast channels.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. And again, hopefully you'll subscribe. So there's a couple ways that you can get updates. If you can't catch us live, you'll know when the replays are available. So many of you may be watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, please make some comments. Please let us know where you're calling from, any questions you want to have, what you like, what you don't like, if you agree or you disagree with us. You can do that on Facebook as well. So it's facebook.com/Success Performance Solutions. If you're not there. And then on the podcast, also w4cy.com. That's audio only, but we're broadcasting for those who want to listen on, who may be driving, or running or doing some exercise. And then we're available on Apple, Amazon. We're now on Audible, on Amazon, Google, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, we're there. Talk4tv.com as well. So just if you basically search for Geeks, Geezers, Googlization, we'll pop up. You'll find
us.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll subscribe. Yeah, we've got some fantastic guests. I mean, last week with Jeff Wald talking about the future of work, fascinating. You talk about a guy who puts money where his mouth is, $10 million to say, what's the future of work going to be like? So again, hopefully he made us a promise. He's going to announce it in January 2040.
40, right. Yeah. For those of us who are here in 2040.
Stay tuned. But today, it's interesting. I was watching a conference this morning, the recruiting, RAC recruiting automation conference. And the last speaker, fantastic speaker was the first one, CEO of TriNet. So talking about HR and the future of that. But the last one was talking about empathy. I was talking about the importance of empathy, perspective, how do we build that? So today we have Derek Lundsten. He's the CEO of Life Guides. I met him through a past speaker or guest and a future guest, Jason Cochran, who will be on 2 weeks from now, I think. He's got a company called I Aspire. But Derek, get everybody straight. Derek has a company called Life Guides, and Jason had introduced me to him. So we talked a few months ago, fascinating. What a timely subject. We're talking about well-being, mental health. How could companies be, what his title is business as a force of good. Business is a force of good. How can we use business to help people deal with all the stress that they're feeling and begin
and more and
yeah,
more
and more, because it's
right.
costing amazing statistic, and he'll be able to hopefully confirm
Yes.
this and give us more insight.
Yes.
But $2 trillion to $2 trillion of lost productivity due to lost productivity, employee stress, mental health issues, and 2020 just exacerbated it. So I don't even know if they're current numbers. It could be worse. It could be worse than that.
Probably is actually, huh?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And then little things like just a few minutes ago, trying to get on the air and realizing we're having some challenges. So individually, we don't have
on the wrong. We're in the wrong studio or something, right?
Yeah. So
anyway,
we got it straightened out, but we're learning to do things on the fly. So I don't know, Joyce, if there's any message you have today. Again, we do hope everybody's staying safe for many reasons. Prior to this, we were talking about staying safe because of COVID, continuing to wear your mask, continuing to keep your distance, wash your hands, use common sense when you're doing things. Now we got to worry about,
additional issues. Yes.
Yeah, additional stresses.
Yes, I would just ask everyone to just take a deep breath and realize that we do have level heads that will be in charge beginning a week from today, actually. And that things are under control. The media sometimes gets off on making it seem like things are a little worse than they really are. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned. I'm not saying that these aren't systemic issues that we don't need to address, because definitely we do. But I do believe that as individuals, we need just to relax and just know that.
Looks like Joyce froze up a little bit. But with that, go ahead, Joyce. You froze up a little bit. But that's a great segue. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring on or Derek. I'm still on
Derek
Jeff.
Lundsten.
Derek Lundsten. Derek, welcome to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you both. Thank you, Ira. Thank you, Joyce. It's really, truly a pleasure to be here with you, and looking forward to the conversation.
Great to have you, Derek. Derek, I just want to say something before we begin to get into this discussion. I really like the fact that it's person to person, that Life Guides as an organization is person to person, and you're giving people, folks who have been there and done that, who have been through the issues. So now tell us about Life Guides.
Well said. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's about recognizing that we all go through life. We all have challenges in life. We all have opportunities to grow through life. And that for someone who's going through an experience, typically there's someone or many people who have been through the same or something very similar. And through that experience, they've developed relationships, resources, strategies, techniques to manage it more effectively. And that wisdom can be shared with others to help them on their own path. And we are using technology to help facilitate those relationships to take place, to optimize for those connections, to help people find each other, to work through those challenges that life presents us. And there's no doubt about it, to use Ira's words, that 2020 was a year fraught with many challenges. Some were new, some were expansions of things that were familiar, but obviously that change will be constant. And now more than ever, I believe that we as business leaders have an opportunity and a responsibility to make sure that our people are being considered and taken care of. And we're creating cultures where individuals are doing that. And that understanding, to use your word, the concept of empathy, is that really putting yourself in someone else's shoes and feeling what it feels like to be managing whatever they're managing. That's what really connects us as human beings and as colleagues and communities.
Yeah, both Ira and I have talked about empathy, especially this year. I don't mean this year, 2021. I mean, over the course of the last 12 months, as we've been going through this pandemic, because it's a very, very important thing for leaders to have that empathy. But what you're saying is that, well, tell us though, you talked about the technology. Using technology, is it kind of a matching thing? Do people go online and put in what
Yeah.
their issue is, and then they're matched with somebody who's been there?
That's correct.
And
That's correct. So we're developing.
Let me just interrupt there. Let's do
Please.
one little step back. Tell us a little bit
Sure.
about life. Tell us a little bit about Life Guides. What it is. We sort of jumped in of how you do the work, but tell us what it is and what what your passion was for starting that, or your purpose for starting it, and then how do you match people? How does it work?
Sure. So first off, I can't take credit for starting it. That was the idea of Mark Donahue, who's the founder of my business partner's effort. He brought this forward, this idea, which was, how do we use technology to connect people for the purpose of working through these life challenges? And when I met Mark a few years ago at an event, and we started talking about this, and in fact, Will Bunker, who's the founder of Match.com, was also in the room at the time. He's also one of our collaborators on this. We started talking about, how do you take the concept of online dating to online relationships for other purposes. And for me personally, I felt almost a spiritual calling, which was, how do you help people live happier, healthier, productive lives and reduce unnecessary struggle and suffering? And if there was a platform, a technology platform that would facilitate those connections, that would be a way for us to move closer to that. And so as an early investor in the organization, I got increasingly more involved and more excited about what the work was doing. And the idea is that organizations can offer this platform, and leaders can offer this to their people, so they can go on and whatever's happening at work or at home. And now that these lines have been very much blurred and integrated, they can go on and seek support in whatever way that they need and be connected with someone, and they can have video conversations or phone conversations or text and messaging conversations, or even in a group format, or consume content. And then to your question, Joyce, we've developed an aspect called intelligence assistance, which is what we'll refer to as the opposite of artificial intelligence. It's the sense of, how do you optimize for human connection? How do you optimize for human relationships and empathy, and give people the tools that they can connect on a better level and provide personalized recommendations and pathways for how people can find their own answers and their truths to get through these different challenges and opportunities in their life. So
how do you do that? I mean, what's the process for going and doing that? I know everybody throws out terms of AI. So you're obviously collecting a lot of data on different people.
Yes.
That's the way you match people. So how do you do that when you're not just collecting bio data?
Correct.
You're going beyond that. So how would you match me or Joyce or anyone with the right person?
Yeah. So so there's two sides of the platform. So it's a two-sided market, in the sense that there's guides, right? So there's people who have been through something in their life and are now, quote unquote, on the other side, and they've learned the lesson. We bring these guides into our community. We train them on how to facilitate, conversations, ask certain questions, how to demonstrate empathy, how to listen effectively, how to provide feedback appropriately. And we take
you vet them, right, Derek? You vet
correct.
them first.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And based on that, their life experiences and their expertise is tagged through our intelligence systems piece in the back end, and that sits in that active database. On the other side of the technology experience, you have members or employees families that are working for organizations, and these organizations are sponsoring or paying for access to this technology. These employees, whatever they're going through, it may be that they've become, in my situation, a new parent not that long ago. Or another example, and that's a positive challenge. On the other side, it might be that a loved one is going through dementia, and you have a caregiving process, and you need to navigate the emotional, practical, financial, and potentially even loss throughout that paradigm. And so they can go in as a member and say, this is what I'm in need of. This is where I need support. This is my quote unquote life challenge. And they'll fill in a little detail about themselves and what they're seeking. And then based on the tagging of those guides, we will make a few suggestions of, here's some people that we believe you will match with based on your shared experience, based on where you are in your process, based on different utilization patterns that we've seen of what creates good matches, and based on different demographics that we learn. And so as more and more utilization and more connections happen, more and more positive conversations happen, people move closer to that happiness, our software and our data gets better at creating those matches and making those suggestions. So to take it from a concept of a more commoditized version, think of Airbnb. You want to go on a vacation, You go into the application, say, I want to go to San Diego. I want a 3-bedroom high rise, or I want to live on the beach. You can put those different details in, and Airbnb will say, here's a few properties that match with what you're going to do. We're taking it to the next level, saying on a human basis, here's relationships, here's people that we think you will connect with, because there's that shared empathy, that shared understanding and wisdom that can be passed between people on the path. Someone's walked ahead of you as you use your word choice, and we can share that with them.
So do you, use filters just like Airbnb does and some other websites? Yeah,
exactly. That's the filter process that we're building in. And all of this is obviously very much in process. We're building it as we go and as we learn, and as more and more members and users are on the platform and more guides are on the platform. That's really where this network and where the intelligence systems really is powerful. But I think the other thing I want to mention, because you mentioned the concept of business as a force for good, but it comes back to caring for our people, right? I think it's the most important thing is about who are the leaders of organizations, who are the leaders of companies that recognize that we need to provide, that people are people at work and their people are people at home. And oftentimes the challenges that people bring to work affect their ability to be fully present to perform. And not only that, but the challenges that they manage at work affect how they can show up for their families, for their spouses, for their kids, for how they want to live their life. And so creating opportunities for people to move on that path together is also a big part of it. And now we are in a position as leaders, and as we think about how we move forward from an economic and employment opportunity. I refer to what's happened over the last year and the job loss and the job opportunities that will be created in the future. How do we create a path for that to take place for our people, for our stakeholders, and for what the next generation of business can be as we emerge from the last year and what's what I'll call the 13th month of 2020.
Absolutely. So Derek, one of the things that I don't remember where I picked this up. It might've been in your bio or on your website. You talked about creating a culture of caring, which is just incredibly, it just resonates. It just sort of fits. And I must have mentioned that several times today to even different people that I was talking to and talking about the show and what we're doing, is because I can't think of a better time to be talking about a culture of caring. I mean, we're talking about beyond just businesses. We're talking about that in society.
And just as an aside, Derek, that is the title of my first TED Talk, was Creating a Culture of Caring.
Oh, amazing. I love that. That's so exciting. So such alignment in values. And so exactly, I mean, I think when you think about the concept of culture, period, right? And the Peter Drucker concept, the culture eats strategy, right? And many people know that slogan, right? And we focus on the importance of culture and creating healthy relationships, creating communication, aligning for shared interests. And when you look at how much time we spend with our colleagues, with our business partners, with the people that are at work, and now where work and home are blended, and you have families extended as part of this. I mean, my kids join conference calls all the time, and I love it when my teammates, the kids join as well. But we have to look at this as a holistic component of caring. We have to care about the people that we are leading, that we are serving, that we're working with. And it's not just an optional in this moment. It should be, in my opinion, the guiding principle what brings us all together. It's a common point of how we move through a really challenging systemic time for the world and for business, and how we can then move past this and create something new and better and healthier as we redefine this. So I think it's a culture of caring. We refer to our clients as culture of caring pioneers, because they're offering this service to them. But really, I think this should be what we strive for collectively within using business as a platform to create change, to create depth in relationships, and to make a positive difference for our communities.
So Derek, I'm trying to get my head around this. Obviously, going back to Match.com, we can talk about what my interests are, what my age is, what my gender is, what my preferences are, and you can try to match it that way. But now we're trying to really match almost empathy levels, or people who appreciate that. And even talking about empathy, there's a million descriptions in this conference I was at this morning. The speaker actually put out a poll and said, and I don't remember what the 5 categories, but one was define empathy. What's one word that describes empathy to you? One was understanding, one was compassion, I don't remember. Sympathy was another one.
Mm-hmm.
And the compassion actually was number one. But understanding was that was second. I think that was a pretty high percentage. Sympathy, was another one. So maybe half the population would agree what it is, but then the other half has all these different variations. So how are you quantifying this, that if you match me with somebody, I'm getting the person who understands what my needs are? And it's really soft stuff. I mean, it's not easy to articulate other than even capture that.
Yeah. So so many thoughts on that. So one, I personally attribute compassion as empathy in action. It's actually applying the concept of shared understanding to what you're doing. That's just my personal feeling. But to your question, empathy does start with understanding. It starts with putting yourself in the other person's position in terms of how are they emotionally, mentally, practically coping with or managing whatever's going on in their life. And it does also start with communication, which is listening, really looking at it from a place of open-heartedness and support to help someone on that journey. And then from a technical standpoint, we're learning. So every time that a member has a conversation or an interaction with a guide, the member has the ability to rate the depth of that relational connection, the depth of them feeling understood, the quality of the conversation and supportive advice or resources they may have received. And through each of those interactions or an iteration of those interactions, we learn more and more about what does empathy look like to different people? How do they receive, right? Frankly, how do they receive love? How do they communicate that in a way that's going to help them be able to translate and incorporate that practical business advice or life advice that's going to help them be happier and healthier in whatever context? And so that's the exciting part, back to data, as we learn more about member habits and we learn more from our members on how this is serving and helping them. We improve the experience, and we improve on offering different forms of education and training, which ultimately can be cross-skilling and be used in other formats of business and life. Ira, to your point, I think this is beyond just the human connection. This is about creating a more connected and a more informed populace, and something that can be useful in many facets of life.
So my mind goes from the human to the technology. So I'm still going back to evaluating that. So this would be the ideal scenario that I could think of from a technology standpoint and a measuring standpoint, is that every conversation that is had is measured, and we look at facial recognition, and we look at tone, and we look at is the way that I'm communicating resonating with the other person, and being able to build that database and be able to get an exact, a good, accurate fit. The challenge with that is it's not anonymous, an invasion of privacy. It's not transparent. So I guess it's how do we in a imperfect world create that really good match if we're not evaluating the interactions?
Are you looking at micro expressions?
We are not, and because this goes back to the anonymity, right? So, and not to say that in the future that wouldn't be an element of it. I mean, as long as everyone was aware that data was anonymized and being used to enrich the experience, I could see there are companies and organizations are doing this type of research, looking at your exact point, micro expressions, tonality, biometrics, and how people are responding to the conversation. Right. So that research and that work is happening, and obviously it can be leveraged for purposes of education. It can be used for purposes of entertainment. It can also be used for purposes of creating depth in relationships. And so I think we're at the very beginning stages of learning more about how that informs us. But right now we're basing our initial experience around the experience of our members and the people who are interacting with each other and their rating of that conversation, and the impact it's having on subsequent decisions or their perception of themselves personally and at work following or ongoing from that relationship.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So Derek, I'm the owner or an executive, and I'm sitting there and this resonates with me, and I recognize I really want to help my people do better.
Yeah.
Whether they're in the workplace or whether they're at home or remote or however that's going to be. what are the questions I should be asking you? Because again, there's obviously lots of organizations that are offering that, from healthcare organizations to other startups. So what are some of the things that if somebody's out there that I should ask and then call you to get a fair, to find out if it's a good fit?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First is, as a leader, I would look at, am I getting questions from colleagues and employees on my team expressing challenges that I don't have the answers to, especially emotional.
That's probably a problem these days.
Exactly. That's probably even a bigger red flag. If it's not, it means that there's a lack of trust or a lack of engagement. So if that's even a bigger red flag. But if you are getting those questions, most aware leaders from our experience recognize where they have answers and where they don't. And so if they recognize that they don't have the answers, they should say, who can I find, as we always do, that knows the answers or has more information that can help on this path. And if there was a platform or there was a suite of resources and tools that were available to support my people, would I invest in that? Would I invest in my people to show my commitment to them? And if leaders are asking themselves those questions, then they should absolutely be calling us, because when you look at the level of relational depth and opportunity we're presenting at the price point that we are, it's practically free. So they just need to have the desire to help, and then pick up the phone to call us or email us.
So what's the next step for companies? I mean, we can go to lifeguides.com, look at that. What's that process look like? What's involved with it? And how, and again, we work with a lot of, I personally work with a lot of small, medium-sized companies. So they may have, 10 employees, 5 employees, 25 employees, 50 employees, and then there's enterprise. So how is this only for enterprise companies? Can small medium-sized businesses use this? What's the sweet spot?
So
is it
$4 across the board, Derek?
$4 per member per month, and that includes the adult members of that household. So for less than $50, for a price of a lunch, you can ensure that your employees have access to care in whatever modality and whatever topic that they need.
Okay, so that's per month. So
correct.
So then we have to multiply 4 times, so it's $48 a year per employee.
So less than $50. Okay. That's correct.
Got it. Okay.
And then from that standpoint, what we recommend is we work with these leaders who have done this self-evaluation of their values and their resources, and we encourage them to use it, to experience it, to advocate for this need to be introspective and reflective on where the challenges are and the need for growth. And when we do that, we work with these leadership teams to build customized communication plans to help their people know that this is available for them, and to provide awareness of its utility when and if they need it. And from that standpoint, we then work closely with our partners and with our clients to help their members use this technology. And then through that, we learn more about the product and how we enhance it. So that's a quick summary, Ira, on how it works.
And you don't charge for that, or do you, for that consulting?
That's all part of the fee that we talked about. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any businesses or organizations that aren't a good fit, or situations that aren't a good fit for you right now?
I would say if a leader does not understand that resonance of needing to care for their people, it probably would not be a good fit. But if they have good human virtues, they want to be supportive, it will be a good fit. And that's the only qualifier at this point. Do you care or not?
If they want to attract top talent, they better be caring, right?
That's exactly right.
For sure. So how can people get in touch with you? Obviously Life Guides, but how else can they get in touch with you if they have questions, Derek?
Absolutely. My email is Derek, DEREK, @lifeguides.com. You can email me directly, and I'm happy to schedule a time with our team and anyone who'd like to learn more about this. And as well as, obviously, we and myself are on social media, all different channels. You can find us there.
Are there any questions that you commonly get asked that we should have asked, but we didn't?
You asked great questions. I didn't expect this to be a presentation on the product. I thought it was going to be just a bigger picture conversation, but I love that you asked that. So no, you did a great discovery call, Ira. Thank you.
Well, thanks. And again, it was important. I mean, a lot of times we don't like to just promote the product or the service that somebody's offering, but it's intriguing. I mean, to me, here is the absolute opportunity. This was a perfect discussion of how technology can enhance the human experience. It can enhance humanity when it's used properly. Because again, and especially with the remote workforce, in the past, even with a lot of the ELPs that were developed, the organizations, well, if you come into the office, I mean, they had people on site. You can go to visits. We can schedule you with a counselor or a coach or someone, and that disappeared. So we were using technology, but now we're even doing the outreach, doing matching, doing the discovery. How can we better align that? So I love the idea that this came from even the concept of Match.com.
Thank you.
And there are two things that I really like, and that is the idea of using technology to facilitate the human connection, which is what you were talking about, and the idea of using humans instead of videos and printed material and sending people to a website to read is obviously not as nearly as effective as giving them a human with whom they can communicate.
Yeah, using technology to make humans better, not necessarily replacing humans, and that's what a perfect example. So it was an easy rabbit hole to go down with you, Derek.
It was a fun conversation. I appreciate both of you and your questions. I'm looking forward to collaborating more.
Thanks, Derek.
And
Me too,
we'll definitely be in touch. Again, just on, especially with Joyce as my co-host, talking about the employee experience, talking about cultures. We've got quite a few guests coming up, and we'll be talking a lot more about that. So your name will be brought up, oftentimes, and we wish you the best of success. Please stay safe. And if there's anything else we can do for you, let us know. Keep in touch.
Thank you, and likewise.
Thanks for being here, Derek.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Joyce, again, another great opportunity. And that was fun. That I wasn't sure where that was going to go, but other than we knew it was a timely conversation, but it's really a fascinating, it was much more fascinating conversation than I even imagined. I knew a little bit about what Derek did, but this was great. We are going to take a short break. Thank you for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. And Googlization Nation. Please subscribe, by the way. You can go to googlizationnation.com, get updates about the webcast, a couple other events that are be able to come up, certainly the podcast, and we're hopefully going to be able to grow that and add even more things. Also, you can go to HermanTrendAlert.com. Speaking of humans, maybe it's the Human Trend Alert. Maybe that's the new version.
You're not the first person to say that.
The HermanTrendAlert.com, and you can get Joyce's email. And when we come back, we're going to go into our special segment, which is Ahead of the Curve. We're going to continue on our work for our forecast for 2021, which keeps evolving. So for right now, stay tuned. We will be back in less than 2 minutes. Hiring top talent shouldn't be left up to the roll of the dice. And yet, that's exactly what many organizations do. They roll the dice, cross their fingers, and pray for a better outcome. Hiring the right employees the first time is much too important and way too costly to leave to a game of chance. Your employees and your customers deserve better. For 25 years, Success Performance Solution has been helping small and medium-sized businesses hire smarter. They offer pre-employment and leadership assessments from typing and data entry to C-suite competence. Whether it's production, sales, healthcare, call centers, or management, Success Performance Solutions can help. Visit their website at www.successperformancesolutions.com to schedule a free demo or call 800-803-4303.
A lot of you might be feeling like you're standing in deep shift. But do you know what grows and rises out of deep shift? Opportunity. To successfully navigate the shift to the new normal, each of us must learn to rapidly adapt to the speed of change. Some of us are hardwired for this. Others, not so much. That's where Success Performance Solutions can help. Success Performance Solutions is now your AQ headquarters. Whether you are personally struggling with the next chapter in your career or wondering how ready your team is for fast, disruptive change, our AQ assessment and coaching will provide you a detailed, scientifically backed roadmap to guide you into the new normal. Optimize your adaptability today. Contact Success Performance Solutions about evaluating your team's change readiness or joining our upcoming AQ Masterclass. Visit successperformancesolutions.com or call us at 800-803-4303.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. I am here with my co-host, Joyce Joya from the Herman Group, and we are, this has been a great episode. This has been fun, and we've had some really good conversations. And again, I want to thank Derek Lundsten from Life Guides for being our guest on the earlier segment. And again, what a valuable subject, talking about employee stress, mental health, well-being, whether it's whether you're working or not, whether you're an employee or not. It's a great opportunity, and we're certainly going to be hearing a lot more about that in the future.
And for employees who are going through issues, it's very affordable.
We're all going through issues. I think it's just a matter of how far, how our coping skills are, but how extreme that is. And then it goes into our ability to adapt. You just saw the commercial for adaptability. More and more people, more and more interest in that. I keep seeing that come up in more and more themes and more conversations about our ability to adapt. And we're so concerned right now with getting through this, with enduring and rebounding and resilience, and everybody's throwing out all the buzzwords. But ultimately, while we're figuring out how to adapt or how to get back to some normalcy, the whole environment's changing. And we've talked about this before, and you may bring it up even on your forecast, is that people are expecting to go back to a workplace or an environment that was like it was before. But as it turns out, sometimes the workplaces aren't going to be there. They now may be co-working spaces. But even when people go back, is all the people that you used to see on a daily basis probably aren't going to be there, because it's going to be some type of a hybrid or distributed workforce. There may be different types of environment, different precautions that are in place. Technology is still advancing. We're not going to erase that and go back to where that was. So now we do rely on all these, on all the technology, what travel is going to look like, conferences, meals, parties, social events, all different. And now that even from talent, that we have an opportunity to seek talent worldwide. There is no geographic limitation anymore to have the talent. Even if you have to bring people in, they don't have to come in every single day. Maybe they can come in once a month or, for a few days. So, but, how are you going to build a culture? How are we going to build a culture around that? And then culture of caring isn't even an added element. So it'll be fascinating. So anyway, I know we're going to continue on your work list part 2, your forecast part 2. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Ira. Well, we have a viral tsunami going on the West Coast. And amid this, and I was on the phone the other night with my physician, and she sent me a picture of the curve of cases here in Austin, and it was like this. Yeah.
There was one the other day, and I don't know where it was from. I don't know if it was the U.S. or if it was. Oh, I know where it was. It was actually in the U.K. and was it France or Spain or Ireland? And it literally was a vertical
line.
There was no incline. It was a vertical line.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't seen California's, but I assume California's there, but across the whole U.S.
well, not quite vertical, but very close to it. And the line for Austin, I mean, Austin's opening up its convention center for COVID patients at this point. But anyway, on that, into this environment, we are moving into the future as corporate America, as business America, right? And there are a number of additional trends to what you just recounted and what we talked about last week. And the first one I want to talk about is diversity and inclusion, because I see that as more important than ever. I think that the whole Black Lives Matter movement that we saw last year really helped to raise our consciousness. At least if we were paying attention, it helped to raise our consciousness to the fact that there's a need to address systemic racism. And God knows the events of the last week have raised our consciousness to the need to address this systemic ignorance that is there. And what I'm also seeing is that particularly the younger generations, that is generations X and not X and Y, but Y and Z at this point, are, I mean, it's not optional. It's just not optional. Either you will choose to address it or they're out of there. It's just not optional. And so what we're going to see is that every major organization, if they don't already, will begin addressing these issues in a big way. And they need to, because there is so much prejudice that people are not acknowledging in all levels of corporate America. Yeah. That needs to be addressed. And the second thing I want to address, if I may move along, is that big data in HR will have an increasingly important role. And that is that the more efficiently and effectively we can recruit and engage and retain our employees, the more we're going to optimize the profit driven to the bottom line. And the more, therefore, that we'll have to spend on giving our employees positive experiences and our customers positive experiences. And therefore, we'll be able to even be more successful as an organization. The third one I want to address today is that wise companies will use technology to stay connected in all kinds of different ways, even within the organization, using cell phones and testing to create an immediacy to acknowledgement. One of the examples that I love is that at the Hilton in Kuala Lumpur, when one of the front desk people had upsold one of their guests coming in to the presidential suite, and it was a huge jump in revenue for the organization. And that individual was acknowledged by the GM and his department and everyone, to everybody in the organization almost instantly, so that as that person walked around the property, there were people saying, "Great job, way to go," whatever. And so we can use technology to help us pat people on the back, acknowledge good behaviors, and reinforce people in a very
we don't have to wait 12 months for an annual review?
No, hopefully not. The next one I want to talk about is that learning communities are going to be more important than ever. And learning communities like Athena Online, myquickcoach.com, and in Gomu, but where I see that organizations are looking for more one-on-one, more interactivity, more of an opportunity to to affect individuals. And that's what I love about Ngomu, that learning community, because it is it's an opportunity for the coaches to coach on an individual basis as well as a group basis. The second to last one I want to talk about is that cafeteria style benefits are re-emerging. Now, I don't think cafeteria style benefits ever really went away. And let me define that. Cafeteria style benefits are where you give the individual employee a pot of money and you say, now, here is a wide range of different offerings that you could use that money for, including things like maybe guidelines or Best Money Moves, which is a financial wellness website, or any number of other things that people could use that pot of money for. Insurances, pet insurance, apartment insurance, as well as 401ks and investment in the organization, 401ks, like stock ownership.
Right.
But what's new there is that we're also seeing that people can take that pot of money and apply at least part of it to their student loans. And finally, but certainly not the least, is that adaptability is emerging as the quality which is most important to look for in talent that we're recruiting. Because the more adaptable people are, the more they're able to handle whatever we want to have them do for us.
Everything we've been talking about.
Exactly.
So
Thank
Joyce,
you so
we are just about out of time, and I'm glad you got through that. So that's perfect, and thank you for bringing in adaptability as well. It's a great recap, and again, I really appreciate. This is how this started. Our opportunity to work together was with Ahead of the Curve, and it's worked out really, really well. And it's really been a valuable segment. But again, we're at the end of our show, another show.
They go so fast, Ira.
It does. It's going faster and faster, especially when we miss a minute right in the front. It's incredibly, every second is valuable. But again, we want to thank everybody for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization and watching it, not just listening to it. Please go, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave some comments, let us know how you're doing. Please share it. We're also on Facebook live each week, Wednesdays, 1 p.m., and then the replay is available there. And then we are on every podcast that I can think of, from Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. If you just search whatever your favorite podcast is, we should be there. If we're not, let us know, and we'll make sure we get there. Till next week, we'll be talking with J.D. Conway. He's from Bamboo HR and Utah Business. Fascinating guy. I heard him on a panel probably 3-4 months ago, and they said, hey, we need to connect, and he agreed. So next week will be the inauguration, so hopefully we'll have a smooth sailing through that. But we've got a number of great guests. I mentioned Jason Cochran will be on the following week. Will be actually almost a follow-up to his company's a really good connection with what Life Guides is, so we'll continue that conversation as well. So until next week, thank you very much. Please stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Many reasons. Stay healthy. And if you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out to myself and Joyce. Herman Trend Alert, Googlization.com. Please go up and sign up for both of those. Until next week, don't let the shift hit your plans.
Thanks, everyone.